The last 7 days saw the world's largest aircraft take flight for the first time in preparation for eventually airdropping orbital-class rockets, while a Cygnus cargo ship launched to and berthed with the International Space Station. It's that and more for this week's Space Bulletin for April 19th, 2019. Last weekend, the world's largest aircraft flew for the first time. The Stratolaunch aircraft, built by Scaled Composites and operated by Stratolaunch Systems, has a wingspan of 117 meters. It's designed to carry multiple small orbital-class rockets to be airdropped at around 11,000 meters. Funded primarily by Paul Allen, who died in October 2018, the Stratolaunch aircraft has been in development since 2011. Its first flight came at 13:58 UTC April 13th and lasted for about 2.5 hours, reaching a maximum speed of about 300 kilometers per hour. Once its testing is complete, it is expected to fly between 1 and 3 Northrop Grumman-built Pegasus XL rockets at a time before releasing them to launch into orbit. Exactly when the first flight with a rocket will take place is not yet known, but the company hopes to be ready to send rockets into orbit by 2022. Also this week, former NASA astronaut Owen Garriott died in Huntsville, Alabama at age 88. He flew into space twice, once aboard Skylab in 1973 and another aboard Space Shuttle Columbia during STS-9 in 1983. Overall, he spent nearly 70 days in orbit and performed 3 spacewalks, lasting a total of 13 hours and 43 minutes. Garriott was born November 22, 1930 in Enid, Oklahoma. He graduated from the University of Oklahoma in 1953 with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. He also earned a master's degree in 1957 and a doctorate in 1960. Garriott also served in the U.S. Navy from 1953 to 1956 before teaching electronics and physics until his selection as a NASA astronaut in 1965. After his 2 spaceflights, he retired from NASA in 1986. One of his 4 children, Richard, also flew into space, but as a space tourist. Richard became the first American and second person ever to follow a parent into space in his 12-day flight to the International Space Station in October 2008. Meanwhile, following last week's successful launch of SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rocket from Kennedy Space Center in Florida and the subsequent successful landings of all 3 first-stage boosters, the center core ultimately toppled over because of rough seas. While the 2 side boosters landed back at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station's landing zones 1 and 2, the center core landed downrange on a drone ship named Of Course I Still Love You. Because the sea state was rough, SpaceX teams were not able to get to the booster safely before it toppled over. Upon its arrival back at Port Canaveral on April 18th, only the lower half of the core could be seen with the entire upper section missing. Whether that was because it was severed in the fall before sinking in the ocean, or because SpaceX cut off the damaged portion in order to salvage the engine section is unclear. It's also unclear if or what SpaceX hopes to salvage from this core. However, it isn't expected to postpone the next Falcon Heavy mission, which is scheduled to use a fresh center core in June 2019. Also suffering a problem was the Intelsat 29E communications satellite, which is located in geostationary orbit over the Americas, some 35,000 kilometers above the equator. On April 18, 2019, Intelsat confirmed that an anomaly on April 10th resulted in the loss of the communications satellite, which has been in orbit since January 2016. While it is not yet known exactly what happened, the company said damage on the spacecraft's propulsion system on April 7th caused propellant to leak and disrupt service to its customers. Imagery from Exode Analytics Solutions on April 12th showed debris coming off the spacecraft over a period of several hours. With the spacecraft unrecoverable, Intelsat said it is working to transfer customers' service to other satellites in the area. As of right now, it is unclear if the anomaly will affect other satellites in geostationary orbit.
3, 2, 1, and we have engine ignition.
And we have liftoff of the Antares NG-11 mission to the ISS, engines at full power.
Finally, the big story of the week was the launch and subsequent arrival of Northrop Grumman's NG-11 Cygnus spacecraft to the International Space Station. Named SS Roger Chaffee after the fallen Apollo 1 astronaut, the spacecraft is carrying with it more than 3,400 kilograms of supplies and equipment, including a new robot helper called Astrobee. This spacecraft launched at 2046 UTC April 7th and was berthed to the outpost 2 days later at 11:31 UTC April 19th. It's expected to remain at the outpost for 3 months before performing an extended free-flying mission away from the ISS until December. During that time, it will test its new control moment gyroscopes and allow the Northrop Grumman team to demonstrate its ability to operate 2 Cygnus spacecraft in orbit when NG-12 launches in October. Those are your highlights for this week's Space Bulletin. You can find those and many more at spaceflightinsider.com. We do our best to bring you as much space news as possible, and will continue to do so. However, if you're able, we could use your help on Patreon. Most of our writers and photographers are volunteers, and a contribution of just $1 a month will go a long way to help change that. And as always, if you haven't already, be sure to like and share this video, subscribe to Spaceflight Insider on YouTube, and hit the bell to be notified when more space-related videos are uploaded. See you next week.